All right.
Okay.
Good. Good.
Yep, I'm good. I'm waiting on you, buddy.
Welcome to 2A Cops, Cops Supporting Gun Rights. I'm Matt.
I'm Keith.
And we are here today to talk about the Bushmaster ACR for the people who've always wanted one, like me and Keith. If you can't find one or you can't afford one because they haven't been made in quite a while, we've got a couple alternatives that we're going to look at and compare them to this gun here.
And there are some guns, like some of us can't afford it in the ACR or can't find one and afford the price they're trying to charge you for it. So he's going to talk about some alternatives. Obviously, the SCAR is not the cheaper alternative.
That's going to be the more expensive alternative.
But people do talk about SCARs, and I've heard some comparisons, so we're going to try that out. But we do have a couple of cheaper guns that are affordable for regular people.
The Bushmaster ACR was produced from 2010 to 2020. It had a short-stroke gas piston system, a forward side-charging, non-reciprocating charging handle, a folding stock with adjustable length of pole, and it could fire while the stock was folded. It uses a standard AR trigger, has a cold hammer-forged barrel. The caliber can be changed without tools. The gun weighs about 8 pounds. It was designed and made in the United States. The CZ Bren 2 is a short-stroke gas piston system with a side-folding stock, a forward side-charging handle that is non-reciprocating, a cold hammer-forged barrel. It has its own trigger, and it is about 7.3 pounds. MSRP for the CZ Bren 2 is $1,999. Preceding specs are for the MS carbine, which is pictured in the top left corner of your screen.
Dude, this is light.
It's very light.
On it. You don't have a flashlight on it or anything?
The trigger also is really light trigger. It's kind of long, but it's got a nice let off.
Okay.
It's not an AR trigger, so that's the only gun here that doesn't have something you can swap out easily.
Oh, that's weird. I like it. It's weird.
It's definitely different than the other ones.
It's not as crisp. It's got like a long drag on it, like when you pull it, and then the reset.
Oh, you're talking about the trigger.
The series set's nice, but that long trigger pull is just, you know what it reminds me of is the cheap handgun test we did.
Okay.
What gun was that?
That was the Taurus, had the really long trigger.
Yeah, it's not that bad, but...
Well, unfortunately, it's an unfair comparison with these other guns because all three other guns have Geisleys in them.
Totally.
All right, guys, let's take a couple minutes here and talk about something that's kind of serious. Obviously, we're out here at the range today having fun, shooting a bunch of guns, comparing some stuff. But say, for instance, that had been inside my home. That was a dude who just broke in who was trying to do some bad stuff to my family or myself. And I just smoked him. Next thing you're going to do is make 2 phone calls. First call is going to be to 911. Second phone call, once you hang up with 911, better be to an attorney. And I say this from a standpoint of an former law enforcement officer who's been to a whole lot of shootings, who's been through one himself. You want an attorney present when you start talking to the cops about what just happened. In that regard, Keith and I are firm believers in U.S. Law Shield. We are both members, and there's a reason for that. U.S. Law Shield has attorneys on call 24 hours a day in case you get any kind of self-defense shooting or other use of force. They will cover you whether it was a firearm, a knife, a baseball bat, the front bumper of your car. They are there in case you've had to defend yourself. They are going to defend you. U.S. Law Shield is not an insurance policy. It is a prepaid legal service, at least in Idaho. Some states consider it an insurance policy. Either way, it's attorneys on call in case you need them because you just saved your life. Additionally, from a law enforcement standpoint, while Keith and I were on the job, our unions provided attorneys for us if we got in shootings. I understand that the first thing the cops are going to do is they're going to show up and they're going to start asking questions as to what happened. You need to have your attorney there. Having been through this myself as a law enforcement officer, I can tell you that it is stressful, and I already had an attorney provided. You need to have one there. So, also on that note, unlike some of the other services like this that are out there, U.S. Law Shield covers on-duty law enforcement. So if you work for an agency that doesn't have a union, you don't have union representation, you don't have a lawyer who's going to be there to help you, look into U.S. Law Shield. They will cover you on or off the job. It's $10 a month. You're talking about a quarter pounder with cheese meal or a Whopper meal. One burger a month could potentially save you. So anyway, US Law Shield, huge fans of it. Keith and I are both members. There's a reason for that. And all right, let's get back to shooting.
The FN SCAR 16S is a short-stroke gas piston with a side folding stock. It has a forward charging handle that on earlier models is a reciprocating charging handle. It has its own trigger. It has a cold hammer forged barrel, weighs 7¼ pounds, and MSRP is $3,839.
It is a light gun. I like the recoil impulse on it. I don't like this optic, which is sad because it's a really good optic.
I think I don't like the optic on that rifle.
That might be it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fan of, it's personally because I'm jacked up eye-wise, I don't like them.
The Palmetto State Armory Jackal is a long-stroke gas piston system. It has a side-folding stock that is an ACR clone. It is a forward side-charging, non-reciprocating charging handle. It uses a standard AR trigger. It has a nitrided 4150V chromoly steel barrel and weighs 7.6 pounds. MSRP is right around $1,300.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good shooting gun.
Cool gun.
The more I'm shooting this gun, the more I'm liking it too.
Yeah. It's worth the money.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Well, the fact that everything is AR compatible.
Yeah, that is nice. We also have to thank Boise Black Rifle. They gave us some really cool guns to come up and shoot that we didn't have, like that totally awesome SCAR. Now, for those of you who have been following the channel, you know that I've been asking Rob for a little bit of Boise Black Rifle swag, like a nice Boise Black Rifle hoodie that like Matt has. And like, I get it. He gave us some guns. Why would he give me a hoodie? I totally understand. So I made my own to support him. So that way I can match Matt. So let us know what you think in the comments.
All right. So what we're going to do is each of us is going to put 5 rounds through the ACR and then 5 rounds through the other alternative gun, and just quick thoughts comparison-wise between the two. It's going to be used on our scoring later, but this is just some initial thoughts. I don't think I have 10 rounds in that mag. No, I got 2 mags, never mind, doesn't matter. All right, so ACR.
It is a nice rifle, isn't it?
I do like it a lot. And there's at least 5 in here. So that was ACR, now I'm going Jackal. That was 6 rounds, but I don't know. I kind of like the Jackal. I hate to say it.
Dude, you know what I want to do is
because it's so heavy on the front end, there's almost no recoil.
I want to torture test the Jackal. I want to torture test it and see what happens.
Yeah, we can.
Hey, so ACR, I've always wanted one, but I haven't found one at the right price because, man, they're expensive. Why do I want one? Like, you guys like it for video games and stuff like that. I just like it because I just like the systems of it. I like the operating system. I like the ergonomics of it. And I don't have a lot of time on it, so this is not new for me, but I don't get to shoot it that often. I like it. The recoil impulse on it is a little weird. Like, it's like, I don't want to say weird, it's sharp.
Yes, agreed.
It's very sharp to me. Where like, and I guess it's because I've been shooting the SCAR, and you know, I maybe subconsciously I'm comparing it to the SCAR, where that recoil is phenomenal, man. I'm not gonna lie. The Jackal. So I'm gonna compare it to the Jackal, and truth be told, PSA's been doing really good by making cheap guns and making them available to everybody. And it seems like they're working really hard at trying to up their game. I really like their AKs. I have one of their AKs. I shot this a little bit. Let me shoot it again and let me compare it to that ACR and see how it compares.
That was more than 5, but okay.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I like it better than the ACR. The recoil on it.
The difference, that's a long stroke. The ACR is a short stroke.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you got a lot of stuff on it, so it's a little front end heavy. But to be honest, the same stuff I have on mine if I was going to do it. So it is a little bit heavy, but the ergonomics feel really good.
Next comparison, we're going to go ACR and Bren 2. Granted, this Bren 2 is a pistol, not the full 16-inch rifle, so it's not a 100% accurate comparison. For that matter, take a look at the photo. This is what a Bren 2 rifle looks like. So there is, cosmetically, the pistol doesn't look as much like the ACR as the rifle. The rifle looks almost dead on. I should put my ears on.
No, I don't. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I already did that earlier. I do really like the bolt drop on the ACR.
All right, so let's start real quick. You talked about the, what'd you like about it on there?
I like the bolt drop, bolt catch, where it's at. Right here in the center, it's ambi, you can run it either hand to lock the bolt open, lift up, to drop the bolt, push down.
That's pretty cool.
All right. So the Bren 2 has very similar controls.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead.
The Bren 2 has a very similar bolt catch as opposed to the ACR where it's on the outside of the trigger guard. On the Bren 2, it's inside. Also, still has a ping pong paddle. So for AR-15 users, they're used to that bolt catch. It does, both of them operate independently. So there's the bolt catch there. Safety was off, it's on now. It's probably a little bit sharper on the recoil than the ACR, but I do like the way it feels. A 16-inch would probably be a little bit different, a little more weight on the muzzle, because they do have a longer handguard as well. So I do like it. I like it a lot. The fact that these are not readily available, but they're currently available, whereas the ACR is not. This one, I think, cosmetically looks the closest in full rifle format.
I still like it. Okay, all right, man. Now it's the Bren. Okay, the recoil is pretty sharp. The trigger is weird. Now, Matt brought up a good point. These all have Geisley triggers, or most of them have Geisley triggers.
Everything but that has a Geisley in it.
Okay, so everything but this has a Geisley trigger. I hate this trigger. It reminds me of the Taurus that we go back and look at our other video, the cheap gun test. It reminds me of the Taurus.
Yeah, it's a very long trigger in comparison to the Geisleys. That's
super long.
But Geisleys are also notoriously very short travel.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I agree.
I would throw a Geisley in this thing.
If they make one.
It's still a nice gun. I mean, if I can't find an ACR, I think it's a great alternative.
Yeah.
Right? It's not an ACR, but it's a good alternative for it.
All right, ACR 5 rounds. And then the SCAR. The recoil impulse on the SCAR is really nice.
I love it.
It's really nice recoil impulse.
It's just the
definitely harder
ergonomics.
shooting, in as far as recoil impulse goes compared to anything out here. Ergos wise, I'm not a big fan. It feels really bulky in my hands. But Damn, it's got a nice recoil impulse.
All right, we're gonna cleanse the palate. I like that.
I do like that.
That's pretty cool. All right. All right. I do like the scar, but I like the SBR scar. The SBR version. All right.
That recoil impulse, huh?
right.
I can already see it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I dig the scar a lot. This is funky. Okay. Scar's operating system is money. I think they were putting too much effort into this. You know what I mean? Like in their cheek riser, you know, all these different adjustments on the stock. I mean, if you had just kept it simple back here and kept it a little more slim, I think it would be a little bit nicer, but you cannot beat the recoil impulse. It's fucking money, man.
I agree. It's a really tall gun at like the receiver area.
Yes, it is. But I'm not gonna lie, if I could take that Bushmaster, put the operating system for this in a Bushmaster,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it.
All right. So after shooting all these guns, I had put together a little comparison chart, some categories that I wanted to compare the guns. And I'm going to read off that list here real quick. First category was general ergonomics. These were rated on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least, 5 being the best. So general ergos, ease of loading and charging, safety, location and use, stock folding and adjustment of the length of pull, stock stability, so whether it rattles around and gives you a good shouldering of the weapon, felt recoil, controllability while shooting and moving, cool factor, and then value. That was for the ACR. For the other guns that we're comparing to the ACR, I added 2 other categories, and that would be similarity, at least cosmetically, to the ACR. And if you had to choose the ACR or that particular gun that we're comparing to it.
And the most important category is the cool factor.
Cool factor and
because we're not gonna lie, man.
right.
You want to be cool. All right.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about the ACR, that's part of it. A lot of it is the cool factor because there's like a kind of like a cult following just because they haven't been available for so long. And even when they were available, they were very limited availability.
So,
all right, so what do you got?
All right, so look, man, if I had a 5, it was 1 to 5 is what we graded it. And you got to, there's one less category for the ACR. So if I add 5 points to the ACR, because it is an ACR, it would have come out even with the Bren. So Bren came out as my, if I can't get an ACR, came out as my number 2.
Okay.
All right. The Bren, and I tell you, a lot of it had to do, like, it's, the only downside was the trigger, okay? But everything else reminded me of the ACR, the recoil, like everything, the adjustability, like everything was an ACR, and the price is like what, 1900?
Yeah, they're 1900. And cosmetically, remember the one that we're shooting out here is a pistol, so it doesn't look as much like the ACR, but the ACR carbine looks very, very similar to an ACR.
And so one of the things,
I'm sorry, not the ACR carbine, the Bren 2 carbine looks like the ACR.
And one of the things that he put in there was, would I take this or would I take an ACR? Well, if I got to pay for it, I'm not picking an ACR. What would you say the prices were for an ACR?
The gun broker, I was seeing 3,600 and up to about $5,000.
I'm not paying that much for that. All right, so my last one was my lowest place, the Scar 16, and it comes down to like the best thing about it is the recoil, but the worst thing about it is the price. It's way overpriced, and just the general ergonomics of it. It's such a high rifle that it's just it feels goofy.
I had the Scar came in last for me as well, and I absolutely agree with Keith. The recoil on that thing, I love shooting that gun. It shoots really nice. Recoil impulse is super light. You can the gun hardly comes off target at all when you're firing it. I don't like the stock. The stock is garbage. It's very floppy, at least to me, and I don't like the length of pull adjustment. It's not easy to adjust the length of pull on it. All the other guns, granted, we don't have the Bren 2 carbine stock here to compare it. But the other guns, the length of pull was easy to adjust. They fold better. They're much more stable stock. The ergos on the SCAR was kind of goofy to me. It might be because of the optic that's on there. I'm not used to that optic, so I couldn't get a easy, good cheek weld.
It's not the optic.
But the gun itself is really, really tall. So it's just kind of weird comparing it, going back to back, comparing it to the other guns. It wasn't comfortable. If that was the only gun I had to shoot, I would get used to it, and you'd be used to the ergos. But given the option, I would choose all three of the other guns over it as far as ergos and things like that go.
So the SCAR, I remember when I was on SWAT and the SCAR came out, I was like, I want a SCAR. And I just wanted it. And I had an HK 416 at the time. Man, I would have been crying if I actually got a SCAR and had to use that on entries to use it as like a fighting rifle.
One thing worth noting too, the SCAR we have out here is an earlier one with the reciprocating charging handle. The newer ones don't have that, but the reciprocating charging handle is a bitch. Every time I would drop the bolt home, it would smack me in the hand. It would remind me I got to put my hand a little further out on the fore end. So especially when the ACR and the SCAR came out about the same time, comparing those two, that reciprocating charging handle would have been a killer for me. I probably would have not noticed it until I bought it and shot it, and then I would be like, oh man. I was actually kind of surprised. You said Bren was the second was your top rated?
No, it wasn't my top rated. It was
your second.
My second number.
Okay.
My number one?
The Jackal.
Jackal.
See, the Bren.
And I'm embarrassed. All right, hold on. Disclaimer, I'm embarrassed that a PSA product came out number one. And I'm not just saying that because PSA ignored my email asking for a gun for this valuation, which, thanks PSA. And I mean, PSA has traditionally for a long time had shitty craftsmanship.
You talk to a lot of people that have been in the gun industry for a long time, and especially when you look at their base cheap ARs, and they're still not great.
Yeah.
But they do have two completely different tiers in their AR platforms, and their upper tier ARs are very well made. This gun is not an AR, although the lower receiver is on the Jackal. It's a AR lower. So people used to ARs like Keith and I. The ergos are spot on because everything on there is AR. But my only knock on that gun, which I didn't put it in here, I guess it would probably be part of moving and shooting and things like that, is just the general weight. The Jackal is heavy.
It is.
I'd say it's probably right on par with the ACR because the ACR is also heavy, but the Bren 2 and the SCAR are significantly lighter.
I can tell you right now, I'm going to be buying a Jackal. I'm going to be buying one at some point.
I would never have thought, just shooting them back to back, that I would have rated it as high as I did.
Same.
And it is, the recoil impulse on it's not as light as the SCAR, but it's actually a really enjoyable recoil impulse, and I think it's probably because of the long stroke gas system as opposed to the short stroke, because you were commenting on the Bren 2 when you were shooting it, that initial recoil on it it's kind of sharp, and it's a short stroke gas system. The ACR is also a little bit sharper than the, for that matter, which is funny because the SCAR is also short stroke, but it's very different recoil impulse.
What I would like to see, personally, is I would like to see primary weapon systems, PWS, which is based out of here at Boise. I would like to see them take their operating system and put it in an ACR type platform.
Something with a forward charging handle, with a lower that's got the same kind of bolt catch that's not. That's the one thing I really like about the Bren 2 and the ACR is that ambi bolt catch. That it functions, like there's a lot of ambi AR lowers, but they're not as easy to operate as either one of those, because the bolt catch for your trigger finger to operate it, you got to reach way up and forward, which for me is not a big deal, but for people with smaller hands, you can't just reach that bolt catch real easy with your trigger finger.
Jackal though.
Yeah, I'm really surprised.
How embarrassing! I got to say on YouTube that I'm a fan of something that PSA made. I do like their AKs though.
And honestly, part of the reason it ranked really high for me came down to value. I mean, all these other guns are quite a bit higher. Even the Bren 2, which is the cheapest gun there besides the Jackal, is still $700 more than the Jackal.
But price is just one numerical value in all of this. Everything else, it did good in everything.
Well, I mean, I dinged the SCAR got hurt really hard on value, on price.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such a high value. It's such an expensive gun. I mean, that would have put it a lot closer in my rankings if it had been a less expensive gun.
Look, if I can't get a ACR. It's just too much money. I'm not going to spend that much money on it. And I've always wanted a SCAR. And after spending a lot of time on the range today with it, yeah, I'm not going to spend the money on a Scar either. With that said, a Jackal or a Bren,
I think it's a win either way.
yeah, and honestly, I like the weight of the Bren.
The Bren is light.
It's
money. Really light.
Yeah, that's sick. The Jackal though, man, I know I'm going to be buying one. PSA, feel free to contact me, man. That would be great. You got my email address. It's probably in the garbage folder. You have to go out and dig it out of the trash, but.
Yep. So people out there, if you've always wanted an ACR, if you're the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 guy that played a lot and the ACR was your go-to gun, and you can't find one, you can't afford one, the Jackal's not a bad option. It's really reasonably priced. It's going to be mid-tier AR pricing.
Yeah.
So and they're plenty available. You can get them in different colors. You can get different barrel lengths. They are out there. They're available. The Bren 2, price-wise, very good price. Not near the same availability. You can find them. They're a lot harder to find. So, I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer. If you wanted an ACR and you can't afford an ACR or can't find one, grab a Jackal.
So last thing before we leave, I want to thank Rob at Boise Black Rifle for the most awesomest sweatshirt that ever existed. Thanks for getting that for me. That's all.
No, and again, thank you again to U.S. Law Shield for helping us out here and get this word out to everybody out there.
And thanks for Rob for, all kidding aside, thanks for the rifles. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, so remember your ABCs.
Always be carrying.
All right, so I'm gonna shoot the dude, what's this called again?
The Bushmaster ACR.
I'm gonna shoot the Bushmaster ACR.
Your safety's on hot.
Fucking boomers are gonna lose their shit over that.
Where's your safety, Keith?
Right here. That's my safety.
All right, 5 rounds.
No flinch. Good job. Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's got to make the blooper reel.
Nope, no bloopers there.
Can I take my safety off now? Oh, the safety's on for the boomers.